doesn't go after him right away. He waits for the right time. He's
Right.
so patient.
Right.
Like when you watch the early rounds of his fights, he's like at a world champions that are competing today at the highest level. He probably has the lowest punch count in the early rounds.
Yeah.
Because he just wait, but he also knows he's got that nuclear option that if he can f***ing crack you, most likely he's going to take you out. He's got
Right.
massive confidence in that.
Right back on. Body. Touch the body. Still hard to the body. Hard to the body.
A little bit of weight. I think Gervonta will beat him. Honestly, I think Gervonta will hurt him. I think he'll just use IQ. He'll tire him out a little bit, and I think he'll land.
Joe Rogan was left stunned after hearing reports that Gervonta Tank Davis knocked out a heavyweight in sparring. Rogan praised Tank's explosive power and the fearless way he lands punches that instantly change fights. He said Davis brings rare danger to every match because his knockout power can end things at any second. According to Rogan, that unpredictability makes Tank both thrilling and terrifying for anyone brave enough to face him.
You don't know whether someone's ever going to be able to figure that out or whether or not he's just going to keep cracking people.
Yeah.
So it's part of the fun of watching it. I've talked to a lot of like real boxing purists. It's like you can't rely on that style.
Right.
He's got to be busier. When he gets to the best guys, it's not going to work out. Like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Inside the gym, witnesses say Davis looks more dangerous than ever. Heavyweights have stepped up to test him, but they end up overwhelmed by his blinding speed and violent accuracy. Even the biggest men can't handle the shocking power Tank generates from his compact frame. Those watching describe it as raw, frightening energy, the kind that silences rooms.
Right back on. Body. Touch the body. Still hard to the body. Hard to the body.
Thirty seconds.
A former sparring partner of Jake Paul predicted bluntly that Jake has never faced power like Tank's. He said Jake's past knockouts against retired MMA fighters don't prepare him for a real puncher like Davis. When Gervonta hits, he explained, he doesn't just score, he damages. He believes Jake will quickly realize he's in a league he's never experienced, and while fans admire Jake's boldness, this fight may expose the limits of his risk-taking.
Every single time, people said that Jake would get finished or he would lose a fight. He obviously proved everybody wrong, but I genuinely believe this time, I think that, with Gervonta's boxing IQ and him having Jake come down a little bit in weight, I think Gervonta will beat him, honestly. I think Gervonta will hurt him. I think he'll just use IQ. He'll tire him out a little bit. And, I think he'll land. Gervonta knows how to touch his opponents. But it's interesting because when Floyd fought Logan, the size really, really made a big, impact. And you saw Floyd struggle, against a big, Ohio corn-fed, wrestling strong dude. And, I've sparred Jake and Logan before, and, they train hard.
You're big and Tank by knockout?
Look, I sparred them years ago. They're much better than when I sparred them. They're athletes. They train really hard. I think they work harder than...
Joe Rogan admitted Jake Paul has brought young audiences and excitement to boxing, but questioned whether he's truly ready for an elite, prime fighter like Davis. Jake's biggest wins, Rogan said, came against faded names, not world-class athletes in their peak. Tank, however, represents pure skill, speed, and destructive experience. Rogan respects Jake's courage but warns that in the ring, fame and followers won't protect him from reality.
And fights, like, what if Jake Paul knocks one of them out? Like, what if you get a guy that, like, hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous and this is his first chance at a big show and Jake Paul can crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
But Eddie's point in that interview, and I think the point that just about every boxing aficionado would say, is that Tyron Woodley.
Showbiz the adult explained that even if this fight carries an exhibition label, the humiliation potential for Tank is real. His entire career is built on dominance, losing to an influencer would stain that image. After facing criticism from his draw with Lamont Roach, Tank knows he must silence doubters completely. For him, this is not a showcase, it's a statement. Losing wouldn't just hurt his record, it would damage his legacy.
But it has real consequences. Let him get knocked out by Jake. Let him get embarrassed by Jake. He can't come back. He'll be made a mockery of. He done took a knee, grease in the eye, had a draw with Roach, which everybody thinks Roach was robbed, and then made a mockery of by Jake Paul, a YouTuber. Which is why Gervonta Tank Davis is on Demon Time. See, me being back on my fitness journey, I know how hard that is, especially at his size with how heavy that medicine ball is. Gervonta Tank Davis is going to go hard, pause, on that Jake Paul fight. He has to. While everybody is trying to dismiss that shit, there's a knockout bonus and everything. You got Lamont Roach calling him all these names. Tank Davis shut off his social media. He can't take y'all negativity, making him worse before the fight. He can't allow y'all to be in his head, which that's what y'all want to do. The end of Tank. And I don't. I think boxing is better with Tank involved. I always say that. If there is boxing, boxing is even better when there's more talented and...
Bruce Carrington praised fights like Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis for breathing new life into boxing. He said celebrity crossovers attract younger fans and global attention that traditional bouts can't. Whether fans love or hate them, these fights bring energy, conversation, and headlines that keep boxing alive. Carrington believes excitement, not just titles, is what the sport needs right now.
Entertainment, right? But this what this is sports entertainment. This is what's gonna put butts in the seat, believe it or not. This is what's gonna, bring a lot of money to the sport. Especially, we have people trying to say boxing is dead, boxing is dying. But, we have a whole demographic of people that don't even watch boxing, interested in boxing. So I like to look at it that way. Like we're making these fantasy dream matchups come to life with Floyd and Tyson, And to be honest, I'm a little biased because Floyd, he is my favorite fighter of all time. And Tyson, he is a guy that basically made me fall in love with boxing. And he's the icon, the myth, the legend for me. So it was them two fighting. It's yo, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So and then on top of that, it's an exhibition, bro. It's not something to be taken serious. It's something that is for the people to just enjoy and watch. It's an exhibition. It's not like they're making it a sanctioned fight. Now, Jake and Tank, are they making that a sanctioned fight? I think they are.
They're trying to. It's a lot of moving parts right now with that.
Yeah, so I think that's that's where certain things become an issue because now you're putting it into a serious space. You know what I'm saying? Which it shouldn't be. It's honestly, if it's sanctioned, how the heck they gonna I don't know, bro. I don't know how the heck they gonna really pull that off. But I guess I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's kind of certain things, you still got to question, but at the end of the day, it is putting more eyes on the game. It's keeping the sport alive. And I feel like Jake, his vision, his views, it's kind of bringing eye-openings. It's kind of opening people's eyes. It's funny because
Concerns have grown about Davis's mental and emotional state before the fight. Legal issues, public criticism, and frustration over not getting legacy bouts like Lomachenko have weighed on him. Analysts say these distractions could either weaken or fuel him. For Tank, the mission is to remind the world that despite setbacks, he remains one of boxing's most dangerous forces if he can channel the pressure the right way.
Vasily Lomachenko. And Vasily Lomachenko was the guy that was going to really kind of propel him. It was the big fight that he wanted to get. But unfortunately for him, Vasily Lomachenko decided to retire instead of fighting him. So all of the time that it went into negotiating that fight with Vasily Lomachenko, where he really thought that he was going to get, that marquee fight with a fighter, in that division, it goes away, right? So what does he do? He then has to try to make a fight with somebody else. And that somebody else was Lamont Roach, somebody that he knew, somebody that was from the same area that he is, and somebody pretty much he was doing that the PBC was doing a solid for, and saying, okay, man, we really don't have an opponent, but this guy has a 130-pound title. He just beat Hector Garcia, the same guy that we beat, so boom, let's make the fight. However, that fight was originally supposed to be in Houston, and it had all kind of problems with the venue, moving the venue from here to there. It was supposed to be on one date, then it gets moved to the next date, right? And so basically it gets delayed and delayed and delayed. He also has issues with a judge over a hit and run case, and he's not allowed to leave Florida. She cites him and drags him into court because he went to DC, or he went somewhere without permission. So now he has another threat over his head about going to jail. Just a lot of stuff on the top of that young man's head in the lead into that.
Shakur Stevenson faced backlash after criticizing Tank's career yet accepting a paid sparring role with Jake Paul. Fans called it hypocrisy, bashing Davis while profiting off the hype his name brings. Analysts say this move exposes how money and exposure can flip opinions overnight, damaging Stevenson's credibility among those who expected loyalty and principle.
Venter to an undercard fighter, and then now, worse than an undercard fighter, you're being brought in for sparring, and you're like, ooh, I get to pick Jake Paul's brain, and you like happy about being a sparring partner. For me, that wouldn't be kosher. If I was Shakur and I am who I say I am, I would be trying to build my brand as big as possible, right? Like, if you want to be a big actor, you're going to get to a point where you got to start starring in the movies. You can't just keep doing cameos and showing up for 5 seconds in a movie. You'll never get to Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Will Smith, Denzel Washington. You'll never, if you're not a leading man, you'll never get to where they've been, Leonardo DiCaprio. They don't trust you with the whole movie, right? So for me, if my goal as an actor was to be a leading man and to be the top build, you got to start working towards that. And if you keep doing favors and other people's projects where you do these little bit roles and extra, you're an extra in somebody else's movie, I feel like that's a conflict of interest, because it's not really going to get you towards your end goal. So that's what I'm looking at Shakur. The branding stinks. You're literally Jake Paul's sparring partner right now, just because you don't like Tank. So like I said in the last video, the branding sucks.
Not Tank. It's gonna actually bump up Tank. Yeah, these actions. Hey, people gonna be supporting Tank on these type of actions. You guys gotta look at the big picture, man. Years ago, man, I had a chance to spar, Ricky.
Boxing media reacted to the Jake Paul-Shakur Stevenson partnership with disbelief. Stevenson had long mocked Jake's career, but now stands beside him. Analysts compared it to other money-driven collaborations in the sport, noting that exposure often outweighs loyalty. The alliance boosts Jake's credibility but raises questions about Shakur's motives, showing how boxing's modern era blurs the line between business and pride.
For Gervonta Davis, help me understand what is the difference between Boots Ennis reaching out to Canelo Alvarez in support of his preparation for Terrence Crawford versus Shakur Stevenson reaching out to Jake Paul in preparation for his fight with Gervonta Davis. Tell me what is the difference. I'll tell you what the difference is. The Ennis family actually had a relationship with Canelo Alvarez. Shakur Stevenson has no relationship with Jake Paul. None. We heard, oh, Boots is a sparring partner. How much you got paid for that? So now, isn't that also applicable to Shakur Stevenson? Is he not also a sellout? I don't want to hear anything about this fight. Nah, it's against a YouTuber, it doesn't matter. No, Shakur Stevenson is an elite level fighter that is going to be a sparring partner to a YouTuber, and he reached out.
Paulie Malignaggi revealed that Florida was chosen as the fight's location for its star-studded energy and massive promotional pull. He believes a knockout win over a celebrity like Jake could make Tank a mainstream icon. One spectacular night could turn Davis from a boxing favorite into a global name, unlocking endorsements, fame, and the kind of recognition that transcends the sport.
And Robert, I want to ask you this. When you look at the numbers for Canelo, his fight against Crawford, 41 million viewers. That's what they got. It was the most viewed championship fight of this century. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson got 108 million. It got more than double, significantly more than double. Is it the idea of the streaming services, Netflix, where they're following the numbers, Robert, and that's where the numbers are?
The real fights where they deserve to be seen throughout the world are, it's great. They have good numbers, but when you see guys, that are YouTubers, guys that are 60-year-old retired and coming back, and getting 2 times more than what a real fight, it's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing, kind of sad that we're getting there, that we're in that situation. But I also can't blame them. They're all making a lot of money. That's why Tanch is doing it. I think it's ridiculous. It's a joke. But I can't go against that either. He's making a lot of money. Jake Paul is doing his thing. Jake Paul is he makes these fights happen and gets the views. So people are tuning.
Analyst Andy Ross shocked fans by picking Jake Paul to win. He argued Jake's size, reach, and unorthodox style could trouble Tank, who's used to facing smaller, traditional boxers. Ross said Jake's unpredictability might create unexpected moments and that his confidence shouldn't be underestimated. Though unpopular, he warned that any punch can change everything, and Jake carries enough power to make that moment real.
I have locks with Snaggy right there. I think Jake Paul wins that fight. You're way, look. Obviously, Gervonta Davis has way more experience. He's a hell of a fighter. He's done so much more for boxing and than a lot of people. But to say that, that's not, everyone's going to want to watch that fight. I think it's a genius idea. I think Jake Paul sets the craziest expectations, and I think he sets the bar so high now in the boxing world. Jake Paul revived boxing. People can say what they want to say about it, but Jake Paul.
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned for more updates as the countdown to Gervonta Davis vs. Jake Paul continues.